Welcome to City Church's On Demand Messages. My name is Josh, and we're so glad you're tuning in whenever and wherever you're tuning in from. In fact, if it's your first time, we'd love to connect with you. You can text NEW to the number on the screen right now. We've got a free gift for you. Also, if you need prayer, we would love to pray with you. We believe that prayer is not our last resort, but it is our first response to what is going on in our lives and the lives of those around us. And so we'd love to join in with you. And so you can text next to the number on the screen. Also, if you'd like to invest financially into the mission of City Church to be a Jesus movement that awakens the soul in the city, you can text next as well to the number on the screen. We believe every Sunday morning when we gather in person and online, and we open up God's Word, that He has something special and specific for every one of us. And so as we lean into this week's message that you're about to watch, we pray that God opens up your heart to whatever He has for you, and we hope that you are encouraged by today's message. Again, if we can do anything for you, please let us know. Man, so excited to be here, so excited for this morning. It's going to be, anybody excited? Awesome. 13 of you. We got in double digits. Usually like 7 or 8. We got in double digits. Fun. Hey, my name is Josh. So thankful you are here. We're jumping into a new series, Mountains Can Move. Can you say it with me? Mountains can move. Let's do it again. Mountains can move. It's all on your own this time. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Mountains can move. It's a good statement, right? Sounds good. Sounds believable, sounds hopeful, all these things, but the reality is that for most of us, you just said something that you fully don't believe. Like all throughout the Bible, all throughout the narrative of the Bible, and just in general, but just in the Bible, we see that mountains are used as metaphors for the things in our life that seem unchangeable and immovable. The things that just will never move, that will never shake, that will never tremble, that will never shift to the side, the things that will never move. So many of us have those things in our lives. Whether you're a follower of Jesus or not, you know this, you've experienced this. There are things in our life that just can't seem to move. For some of us, it's that secret habit you can't break. It's the addiction to porn. It's the addiction, whatever it is, drugs, alcohol. Maybe it's shopping. Maybe it's a friendship. Whatever it is, it's that secret habit you just can't break. No one else knows about it, but you just can't break it. That's your mountain. For others, we're starting heavy this morning, right? You're like, oh, okay, welcome to church. Here we are. Welcome. I love you. All right, let's go. Are we good to go? I'm going. All right, here we go. So that's a secret habit. For some of us, the mountain is the prodigal son, daughter that hasn't come home yet. Like they've been gone for years, maybe not physically, but maybe just emotionally and spiritually. They just haven't come home yet. For some of us, it's that. For some of it's physical. It's a sickness, it's an ailment, or something else like that. For some of us, it's the marriage that seems to be broken. It just seems to be broken, seemingly broken, like there's no hope for it. Others of us, you lost a loved one, or it's a job that you just can't seem to get or get past. We all have mountains in our life. We all do, that we all struggle with. It's the thing that is often unchangeable and immovable, some for days, some of them have been there for months, some of them have been there for years, some of them have been there for decades. And in fact, this morning, we're going to get real specific at the end of the service with that rock under your seat. Don't worry about it right now. For some of you that have ADD, I've lost you, but don't worry about it right now, okay? And next week, we'll get specific about some of the mountains, but today is the bigger picture. Because some of us may have read that off the screen, but we actually believe this. There is no way my mountains can move. There's no way. You don't know my mountain. You don't know my story. You don't know any of that stuff. There's no way that my mountains can move. There's no way. It's too great. It's too large. Nobody knows about it, but it's just too much. It's too much. There's no way. I've given up on it. Like it's just there and it will never move. No matter what I do, it will never move. Because others of us don't believe there's no way my mountain can move. We would say this: no matter, I have tried, but I just don't think my mountain can move. I've tried. I've given it all I've got. I've worked harder. I've become stronger. I've become better. I threw away my phone. I got rid of my laptop. I tried to be a better spouse. I tried to be a better husband, but my wife is an idiot. I tried to be a better spouse, but my husband is just dumb and lazy. Like, whatever that is, I've tried. I've done everything I can. I've lost weight. I've read my Bible more. I have tried with everything I've got, but I just don't think. Because there's nothing left on the table, there's nothing left on the board, there's nothing left in the playbook. I just don't think my mountains can move. The question is, can you put that last one up there again, please? The question is, this morning, and for this series, because I believe it's possible, You may not believe it. I'm going to believe it for you right now. Like, I got your back right now, okay? But I believe it's possible to get from this long sentence to simply believing this, that mountains can move. Now, it may seem like a hurdle and a jump and a sprint, like it may seem like that's impossible, but I do believe, and that's the question we're asking, is how do we get from, there's no way it's going to move, or I've tried and it just doesn't seem, I just don't think it's going to move. How do I get from that to believing this? Well, I'm glad you asked, and I'm glad you're here. We're going to look at a story this morning of a man who made one simple decision to bring Jesus his mountain, and in faith, he saw it move. And at the end of this service, we're going to ask God, what you did for him, would you do for us? So we're going to be in Matthew chapter 17 this morning. You can go ahead and turn there. It'll be in your Bible if you'd like to read along. It'll be on the screen as well. But just a little context this morning. So Jesus has just taken Peter, James, and John, which was like his three closest friends, on top of a mountain, the Mount of Transfiguration, and revealed to them who he is. They saw Jesus in his heavenly form. Amazed, right? An amazing moment. So they're walking off of the Mount of Transfiguration. And as they're walking, they come to the masses, verse 14. And when they came to the crowd, a man came up to him and kneeling before him said, Lord, have mercy on me, have mercy on my son, for he has seizures and he suffers terribly. For often he falls into fires and often into water. So this man comes to Jesus and says, hey, my son's having seizures. And in that time, it was nothing for there to be fires everywhere around, like people trying to either stay warm or get rid of things or whatever else, or sometimes fires would just catch. They're also near the Sea of Galilee, so if he had seizures, he would fall into the water. And so he's like, hey, my son is having seizures, and he falls into fires, and he falls into the water. So imagine the scars and the bruises that his son has. So he comes to him and says, will you have mercy on my son? Verse 16, and I brought him to your disciples, and they could not heal him. So this man's already took him to the disciples and said they didn't have the sauce to make this happen. Like, they didn't have the sweet magic to heal my son. Like, they couldn't do it, right? Like, they didn't have the healing power. I've tried, but they didn't get there. So this man has not only tried once, but he's tried a second time. We'll come back to that. So he said, I tried, but they couldn't do it. So would you have mercy on my son? And Jesus answered, O faithless and twisted generation. We'll come back to that next week. How long am I to be with you? How long am I to bear with you? Bring him here to me. So this is very important, and we'll come back to this in a few minutes. Jesus says, bring him here to me. This is so important because Jesus can heal at a distance. He's done this before. Someone's come to him and said, he's sick, he's dead, and Jesus is like, he's healed, go. But he says, bring your son to me. He could have healed at a distance, but he said, I want you to bring the thing that you cannot change, and I want you to bring it to me. Now, this is just a side note. But it's interesting to me that this story tells us that this is his second try. Like, he tried with the disciples and they couldn't do it, so then he tried with Jesus. Like, just imagine, I think sometimes we want God to move our mountains in a specific way when we want him to do it, and sometimes he doesn't do it. But it's just interesting to me that if he would have moved the mountain the first time when the disciples came to him, this story may have never made it to the Bible. Did you get that? Like, if he just would have done the disciples, Jesus would have known, of course. But it may never have made it to the Bible for us to have this conversation today, because sometimes God moves at different times and in different ways, but he sees a bigger picture for us. And so his plan is different for us. Verse 18, so Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of him, and the boy was healed instantly. So we see that, and there's three other accounts of this in the gospel. So 4 men wrote the accounts of Jesus. And within that, we see some of the same stories repeated, but written in different contexts and from different points of view. So we learn a few other things, but one thing that we do see is that this was a demon. So some of you are like, oh, no, I've got a demon in me or whatever. Like, that doesn't mean every mountain is a demon, but for this specific interest, there was a demon in this boy. And so it said it came out of him, and the boy was healed instantly. So here's what I want to do. I want us to step into the shoes of this dad. And maybe you've been a parent, not a parent, but you can at least imagine what it's like to be a parent for a second. Because the other accounts in Mark and Luke tell us a little bit more about this boy. The first thing we see is that it's his only son. So this man he has his only son, brings him to Jesus for healing. The other thing that we see is that the seizures have happened since childhood. So childhood doesn't mean birth. It means about 4 to 5 years old. So when about 4 and 5 years old, something happened to where he started having these seizures. So imagine they have a few good years. Like, the first 4 to 5 years are good years, and then something happens. And imagine being a parent at that point. There's nothing you would do. You would sell the car, sell the house to get your kid the help that he needs. Like, there's nothing like a parent's love. And if you have kids and you know what I'm talking about, if you haven't, maybe you can kind of get there. But there's nothing like a parent's love. I mean, just imagine like 4 or 5 years old and the first seizure hits. Imagine getting close to a fire or water and just always having to pick up your son because you're fearful of what if they have a seizure. I imagine that he would tuck him in at night and then he would lay at the foot of his bed because he'd be fearful that he would have a seizure in the middle of the night. I mean, you've got to step into this. This is a real story with a real man, a real father. Imagine what he's feeling. This is a real dad. You would do whatever it takes, pay whatever you have to pay to get this boy healed. He loves this boy. Mark's account says that he was destroying him. I mean, this man was absolutely desperate. You know, if you think about it and with your mountains, the hardest part of pain in a trial or in a mountain, it's not the darkness, it's the duration. Because if I tell you, you're about to walk through the darkest moments of your life for the next 7 days, most of us can muster up enough strength and courage to walk through it and push through for 7 days, right? The problem is when I say you're about to walk through the darkest days of your life and I don't know when they're going to end. It's the duration that's the most difficult part. It's not that you're going to go through hard times. If you tell me a month, maybe even a year, like I'll tough it out because I can put that on my calendar and say it's just going to be this time. But for most of us in our mountains, there is no duration. Like there's no end point, right? Most of the things we're facing, whether it's sickness, relational things, whatever else, like there's no end point, end game to this whole thing. And so that's when hope begins to slip away. And it hurts to hope, and it's hard to hope because hope acknowledges, I need something that I don't have. So we move from hope to cope. We move from hoping to coping. I remember about 9 months ago, I started going to counseling, and I think counseling's healthy. I think the church needs to break down this misnomer that counseling is a bad thing. I think it's a good thing, and so just you got a pastor that goes to counseling. Sorry. Most of our staff are in counseling as well, just because we want to be healthy. In ministry, and life is hard. And so I'm in counseling. So my counselor, a few months ago, he looked at me and he said, hey, what are the agreements that you're making with yourself? And I was like, you sound like a crazy person right now. And I was like, I don't know. And so I just started sharing some of the stuff I was going through at that point about 9 months ago. I just hit some heavy stage anxiety, just out of nowhere. And I was just trying to work through it. And so I was sharing with that. And then I said, man, it's just hard right now. It's difficult. It's miserable, actually. And then I said, but it is what it is. I said, that's it. That's it. It is what it is. That's your agreement. I said, what do you mean? He said, what do you mean when you say it is what it is? I just tell him, like, it just is what it is. Anybody else say it? It is what it is. Like, it's happening. It's not going to change, and so I'll just push through it. I'll mow through it. I'll deal with it. I'll pretend like it's not there. It is what it is. But the danger in that is that my hope begins to dwindle, and then I just begin to cope. Many of us, if we're honest, you've got mountains in your life, and you've decided, you've made an agreement. Maybe it's not, it is what it is, but I just keep hearing it more and more now that I'm mindful of it because I'm not allowed to say it anymore. I'm like, oh, you can't say that. I'm like, oh, I'm not you, so whatever. I'm not going to force that on you. But many of us say that. We've faced this mountain, and we've dealt with it for so long, and it's exhausting. It is exhausting. But it's not going to change. It's not going to move, so it is what it is. I'll just deal with it. I'll push it down. I'll suppress it. Maybe it'll ignore it. And it's silly to say that you're going to ignore the mountain in your life because it's as silly as it says coming out of my mouth. You're going to ignore the massive mountain in front of you. Like, that's not even a thing. But it just is what it is. It's not going to change, so I'll just deal with it for the rest of my life. And we move from hoping to coping. But here's the thing. That's what the world's kind of hope. That's what the offer. That's the hope that the world offers. The hope that the world offers says, hey, just life is life. Life happens, beep happens, or whatever. Sorry, I don't know if I'm supposed to do that anyways, but that's what the world offers. So I'm sorry, that's what the world offers. It says deal with it. Just deal with it. Move on. But Jesus, that's not the hope that Jesus offers. The hope that Jesus offers is it's going to happen, it's going to move, I just don't know when. That's the hope that he offers. It's going to happen, I just don't know when. The mountain's going to move, I just don't know when. It's going to move. It's going to move. I just don't know when. I love the narrative of this story because I think we get to see a lot of the the vernacular and the dialogue between this man, this father, and Jesus. In fact, in another account, it tells us that the man says, "I believe, help me with my unbelief." But I think in this story, in this account, I think we get to see what the man says, but I'll be honest, I think his heart sounded a little more like this.
They say this mountain can't be moved. They say these chains will never break. But they don't know you like we do. There is power in your name. We've heard that there is no way through. We've heard the tide will never change. They haven't seen what you can do. There is power in your name. So much power in your name. Move the unmovable, break the unbreakable. God, we believe. God, we believe for it. From the impossible, we'll see a miracle. God, we believe. God, we believe for it.
So this man brings his mountain to Jesus, and Jesus moves it. Verse 19, then the disciples came to Jesus privately and said, "Why could we not cast it out?" Like, why? Jesus, you gave us the authority to cast out demons, to heal. Why could we not cast it out? And Jesus said to them, "Because of your little faith." Now let me pause here. This is the fifth time in Matthew's account, Matthew's gospel, that Jesus uses little faith. First time he uses it is in chapter 6, verse 30, and he talks about worry. The next time is in chapter 8, and he talks about fear. The next time he uses little faith is in chapter 14, and he talks about doubt. The next time is in chapter 16, and he talks about misunderstanding. And this time, he says the little faith, and he talks about faithlessness, literally the lack of faith. For truly I say to you, if you have a faith like the grain of a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you. You see, it wasn't that the disciples didn't believe that Jesus was the Son of God. They just didn't think they needed him to move mountains. That's what he's speaking to. Like, they know Jesus is the Son of God. I mean, half of them have been on the Mount of Transfiguration and seen Jesus in his heavenly form. Like, they know he's the Son of God. They just weren't fully dependent on Jesus to move the mountains. They believed it. I wonder how many people in this room would say, I believe Jesus is the Son of God, but you don't trust him to move the mountain. Like, we don't have the faith to move the mountain, but this father, this dad, was at his point of desperation. See, what I've realized and what I see is when God is going to move something in our lives, he starts with our desperation. So here's my question, are you desperate? Now, many of us would say that we're desperate, but our actions and our behaviors would say that we believe, God, would you please move it? But I also know that if I just get stronger or better, then the mountain will move. Like if I get better, if I get, holier, if I read my Bible more, whatever else, the mountain will move. So God, I need you to move the mountain, but if we're just completely honest, we're still trying to move the mountain. Like, God, I need you to move it, but like I also know, God, because I know if I get better, then, it'll probably move. It'll budge enough to where I can get it to go. Like, but I have news for you. If that's you say, God, would you please move? But I think if I get stronger, the mountain will move on its own. That's not desperation, that's pride. And pride is the bedrock that the enemy builds mountains on. Pride is the bedrock that the enemy builds mountains on. So, and that's what the enemy wants you to feel like. If I can just get strong, if I get better, if I can get kinder, if I could get in better shape, if I could do all these things, if I could pray more, then this mountain would move. And the enemy wants you to believe that, and you think you're chipping away at your mountain, but when in all honesty, you're building your mountain higher. The mountain's getting larger, and you think it's getting smaller, and the enemy's like, just keep doing that. Hey, keep thinking you can move it. Keep controlling it. Keep saying that, like, I think this is it. I think this is the way. I think I figured it out. Keep saying that stuff because I'm just going to keep building your mountain bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger because pride is the bedrock that the enemy builds mountains on. But Jesus says, if you have faith like a mustard seed. I bought a pack of mustard seeds, and I got one out first service, and by the grace of God, it's still here, so I don't have to open this bag up again. But this is a mustard seed. Can you see it? It's here, right? Yeah, thanks. Jesus says, if you have faith this size, then you can say to your mountain, move, and it'll move. A true faith. You see, just a little faith makes the impossible possible. But it's a true faith that relies on God. You see, it's not about the amount of your faith. It's not about having great faith in God. It's about having a little faith in a great God. Because the biblical faith is an internal conviction that shows up in external action. So here's what I believe, that if we can get to a place of desperation, that I can't do it. I don't have what it takes. I can't move this mountain. If we get there, then God meets us in our desperation and responds to our faith. Which is why I love that he says, bring the boy to me. Bring the boy to me. Could have healed him right there, but bring him to me because he wanted the man to do something. He wanted him to respond in an active faith. You see, biblical faith is not faith in faith. It's not about how much faith you can work up. It is about the object of your faith. Jesus is asking, hey, I know you have a mountain in your life. I'm not here diminishing the mountains. I'm not here trying to make them. I know they're hard. I know they're difficult. I know it's been years. I'm not trying to discredit any of that. I'm just trying to change the direction to the object of what you actually believe will move it. That's what Jesus is saying. Would you take everything you got, whatever that mountain is, and would you bring it to Jesus? I mean, don't mistake what actually happens. This man, this father, took that small amount of faith and his utter desperation and put it in the hands of a powerful Jesus. He brought him the mountain and cried out for help. You see, faith isn't you moving the mountain. Can we just breathe for it? I just want to release us from that. Faith isn't you moving the mountain. It's not you fixing the addiction. It's not you healing the marriage. Faith isn't you making yourself a better person. Faith is not you moving the mountain. Faith is you believing that the mountain can move. That's what it is. Because you can't move it. I can't move it. And I'm coming from a guy who's got a long line and long history of believing that he can. If I could just get healthier. If I could just get holier. Faith isn't me thinking I can move the mountain. Faith is me believing the mountain can move. There's a difference. Because then I believe, okay, the mountain can move, but I'm not the mountain mover. Jesus is. So this is what we're going to do today. I told you in the beginning, we're going to get pretty specific. So we're going to do exactly what the man did. We're going to take a small amount of faith and our utter desperation and put it in the hands of a powerful Jesus. We're going to bring him the mountain and cry out for help. So here's what I want to invite you to do. There's a stone and a Sharpie underneath your chair. You can go ahead and grab it if you haven't already. I don't have to tell you what your mountain is. I don't have to tell you the thing that has seemed immovable for years. I don't have to tell you the thing that's seemed unchangeable for months. You know. In fact, you knew when I started talking. So here's what I want you to do. I want to invite you to do. You don't have to. And trust me, there's nothing special about these rocks. We got them from Amazon, okay? But I think there is something special when we actually physically write down and acknowledge what maybe we've been hiding for years. Maybe what we've been holding on to for years. It's the mountain. And for some of us, it may be something incredibly serious. And others of you, you may be stressed out and completely worried and terrified about your kid going back to school this week. I don't know what it is. Or maybe you going back to school. I don't know. I don't have to know. God knows. But I think there's something significant about us actually writing it down. Whatever, you don't have to be specific. You don't have to put your name on it or anything like that. You know, just one word, a couple words. You know what it is. I want to ask you to write it down. And here's what we're going to do. Maya's going to play for a few moments. We just want to give you some space to do that with God. And so write it down and then just kind of hold it in your fist whenever you're done. So go ahead and write. So God, this rock that we hold in our hand right now, this stone, God, for a lot of us in this room, it's probably a very good illustration of what we've been doing for a long time. We've been holding it with a clenched fist. We've been trying to control it, either to believing that you can't or that you won't. And God, while we may not know the time, we may not know the day, we may not know the hour or the minute that it will move, we believe that it can. We believe that you can. So God, right now we release control and we bring it to you in our desperation. We trust you with it. So God, for the person that's really having a problem trusting that right now, believing that right now, only you can comfort them the way that they need to. So right now I'm just asking that you would. I'm asking that you would, God. In your name we pray. Amen.